Welcome to FIRSTAR Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. I'm your host, James Gardiner, certified athletic therapist, certified strength and conditioning specialist, yoga instructor, human being. This platform, for the pros, by the pros, anybody in the performance space, and beyond. Welcome here to share in the stories of professionals, experiences, journeys, learning along the way. It's a platform to connect, to network, and to be a part of a community that cares, with conversations that matter, experiences that resonate, and generate ideas, thought-provoking, organic dialogue, passionate pros. Brought to you as always by FIRSTAR Therapy, Mobility Tape, Epic, and Benchmark Athletics. In association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. It's FIRSTAR Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being a part of it.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Epoch Life podcast. Today's guest is someone that's very near and dear to my heart, someone that's a close personal friend, and someone that I consider family, a brother. Today's guest is someone that we've been wanting to bring to you for a while now. This is a person that has truly lived a life building both knowledge and experience, and is now giving back all that he has learned and lived to all of us. Our guest today is James Gardiner. James is a certified athletic therapist, certified strength and conditioning specialist, holds a master's degree in kinesiology and health science, and is a hatha yoga practitioner. His new venture, FIRSTAR Therapy, sheds light on performance wellness, encompassing personal growth and coaching athletes in accessing more of themselves for what they do. This is a conversation that gets into the depths of personal growth, lifelong learning, and true passion of wanting to share these learned experiences with others. I hope you guys enjoy this conversation. Let's get into it with James Gardiner. All right, we are live with James Gardiner. James, what's up, my friend? Good to see you.
Hey, but yeah, man, good to see you too. Always a pleasure. You're a little flatter than normal. Used to seeing you in more multiple dimensions, but here you are. Good to see you, buddy.
We got to stick with the 2D for now. Good to see you as always.
Yeah, well, we do what we need to.
James, obviously, I know your background. We go back a long ways through university and then working together and then building a close friendship. And I think of you and consider you as a brother or part of my family. For everyone listening, how could you summarize your background and your story thus far?
Yeah, I think to keep it short, I am a little bit long-winded, but to keep it short, I think started out doing what I felt was the next logical thing. And I've slowly transitioned to doing what is the next intuitive thing and leading with the heart and following what fulfills me, and what I feel is truly relatable to humanity. And I think that's kind of to summarize it in a brief couple sentences. That would be it. There's been a huge transition over the past few years from early on, just having to be scientific and having to have answers and having to have, data to support everything, to thousands of years of experiential knowledge, through whatever we're calling it, mindfulness, meditation, intention, attention, to I'm sure we'll get into it here as we go, but like to studying the yogic philosophies and how those have really shaped and connected a lot of the dots that were sort of free floating in my universe, my world of understanding. And so coming around now to doing that, being in the moment as much as possible, as often as possible, identifying that and allowing that to sort of direct, the greater questions.
Yeah. Obviously, that's a difficult process to navigate. How could you break that down a little bit more for people that are listening, right? Like, where did you go from to how did you discover that?
Sure. Yeah.
That's where you're at right now.
Yeah, I mean, and again, all my biases are my biases. They're based on the historical experiences that I've had in my life. And I'll break it down like this. I played baseball. I wanted to work in baseball. I wasn't going to make it playing. So I found something I could do to stay in baseball through human movement and a kinesiology degree while I was going through. That's where you and I sort of crossed paths initially, I think, in this life at least, and at Brock University and doing our undergrad in kinesiology. Found some great mentors. They found me, Joe Kenny, who you are very fond of and familiar with, and Dr. Andrew Robb, who's now a sports chiropractor, was a student therapist with the team when I was playing. Transitioned from being an athlete at the university, or identifying as an athlete playing for the baseball team, and transitioning over to becoming a student trainer. So then the life went from being to doing to helping those that were still playing. That transition to Major League Baseball, minor league baseball, working in the Blue Jays organization. Once I had graduated Brock, I went to York and did an athletic therapy degree, certification, passed that exam, was hired by the Blue Jays, was there for a few years working in the pro space, left the Blue Jays again to when some things happened in my life that was sort of like a calling. I need to get back to some other things, and transitioned to York University, had a great amount of reflection now. And looking back at that time, worked as a therapist with the football program. And then that transitioned to overseeing some of the outdoor sports as well as football. And then working as a clinician with students and teaching students and guiding students and learning from and with students. And then from there, we just got back in June. We were living abroad for 2 years in the Bahamas. And I mean, how it happened for me was to be quite honest, we were in Bahamas. We both had summers off, my wife and I, and I took the summer, and her and my son flew back to Canada, and I stayed and studied yoga at an ashram, seemingly to study yoga so I could teach yoga while living in the Bahamas and make a bit of money. Initially that was my logical way of thinking. And to be quite honest, walked out of that full immersion. I mean, we're talking 200 hours. You're living the full yogic lifestyle in the ashram. No alcohol, no caffeine, no meat. You're waking up early. There's intermittent fasting. You're practicing both physically and mentally, and chanting and doing all these things that I'd never been exposed to before, or never allowed myself to open to before. And within sort of 3 minutes a week, the entire month, I walked out of that experience just saying, the word need entered my vocabulary, for the first time in a really long time, is that I needed that more than I could even acknowledge going in or at the other end. So how it happened, I mean, again, like I've always been a logical thinker. It's high school, then it's university, then it's either post-grad or job, right? And then go to job and make money, buy car, buy house, do this, and so on and so forth. And I think there was never pause in myself until this time to get away. So there was a physical removal from all of the things that I had been used to, that we had been used to. And that really gave me an opportunity to step back and step away from all of those expectations. I don't even think they're expectations that I even recognized or realized, and so stepping back and to be quite honest, like sitting still and looking at a horizon on an ocean and just feeling those things. There's been a lot of things along the way that shaped this. So I know you sort of asked, how do you do this simply? I think the simplest way that I can give anybody is to find your way within, find your way to you, to what makes you happy. Do more of that shit, and you're going to be better off. Do more of the things that you get lit up talking about, because that's where you're going to find your path. It doesn't have to be pre-carved. It doesn't have to be prescribed, I can't keep things short, man. I'm a rambler. But I think all of these things. Yeah.
No. And everything you just said there resonates with me so much, because my story is obviously very similar. And a lot of those things are very, very congruent in that fashion. But I want to back up a little bit, right? So obviously with Epic, what we're trying to do is help people realize that you can make the change in your life that you want to make, right? Like, we don't have to just be going along checking these boxes. And that's what I did for a long time. It's like, okay, you go to graduate high school, and then you go to university, and then you get a job, and then you get married, and then you get a house, and blah, 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 right? Life doesn't always work like that. Life is going to throw you for a loop now and then. But we're trying to help people to step forward into whatever change that they want to make in their life, right? So I just want to back up a little bit, and let's touch on Is there something that jumps out to you in terms of like a significant point of adversity where you had to make a big decision? I know you alluded to one a little bit back with career wise, but that's something that we found with every conversation that we've had thus far. Is every person that we've talked to, there's been some form of significant event, sometimes a couple, but they've totally transformed their life as a result of it. They've altered the course of the path they're heading down. Is there something that jumps out to you in terms of looking back now and being like, okay, if I didn't make this change, I would probably be in a completely different state?
100%. I mean, there's a bunch of them along the way. I would say, I could go down any one of these paths and we'll be here all day, but, parenthood is a big one for me, entering parenthood. And I mean, the cup I'm drinking out of is the cup that I had made. And it's a picture of me and my son and just reflecting on the why and watching the world through a child's eyes is like nothing else, because in adulthood, we don't see the world the same way. We see it with all the historical biases that we've garnered through our lifetime. And so I don't know, let me do this a different way. And I'll just talk about sort of 2 or 3 significant events that really sort of modified it for me. One was specifically, I was reading or had just finished reading 10% Happier by Dan Harris. And through that book, I had acknowledged, some of these things. And one of the things that was really powerful in that book was when he was about to leave, he's in a silent retreat, and he's about ready to leave, packs up his stuff. He's going to go give it one more try in the group setting. He says, forget it. I'm going to sit on my balcony. I'm going to sit here in silence and do this on my own and see if I can do this. And he wakes up to the sound of what he thinks is a helicopter, flying over this remote location. And he opens his eyes eventually to see that it's actually a hummingbird. And he's so dialed into the environment that hummingbird sounds like, an army or a navy or a marine helicopter over the land that they're studying sort of the silent retreat on. And that was really powerful. I'm a big visual guy. And so sort of seeing that in my mind's eye as I'm reading his story, and then looping that back to the parenthood thing is I walk down the steps with my son when he's just learning to walk, or, we're going somewhere. And I get 3 or 5 steps ahead of him, and I look back and he's paused, he's stopped, and I'm like, let's go. Like, we got to get somewhere. And where we're going is completely irrelevant, but relevant to the story. It might have been the local coffee shop. It might have been the subway. It might have been a job, whatever that might be. But I look back and he's I mean, for lack of a better term, he's slowing me down, and I walk back and I go and I'm like, what is going on? Like, I go back and I look at him and he is standing there watching, those little wind cyclones, and there's a leaf just swirling in a circle, and he's giggling, like just that childhood giggle of just watching this thing happen. And I was just like, smack me in the face. This is my helicopter. You know what I mean? Like I don't need to get to where I'm going more than I need to invest in this parenthood, in this relationship, but with the environment, right? To living. Like he in childhood, we get to pause and we get to laugh and we get to live and we get to be fully invested. And I'm not saying that gets stripped away from us, but I think we do lose touch with that a little bit as we get older. So that was one really significant thing that stood out to me as like a aha moment, like this background that we go through life with, like these blurry sidelines. It at some point there's something that happens along the way that jars us to say, like, that background is just as important as the foreground. Like everything else, every other human, all those interactions are critical, right? And so that background at that point, seemingly it was that one instant that turned the background into the foreground. Fast forward into like a couple, a year and a half ago, and one of the most significant events that I called you, I think within 7 or 10 hours of it happening, after spending, time at the ashram and finding yoga, or allowing yoga in and finding me as a philosophy, as a lifestyle, I responded to the scene of a horrific accident, on a construction site, and through the background in athletic therapy and all the things that I've studied, I am an emergency first responder. I understand these things, and we were pulled over waiting to go see an apartment due to some other scenarios that were going on while we were in the Bahamas, and just heard this massive bang and this crash, and got out of the car thinking like, okay, it's a construction site, a residential construction site. Maybe they just dropped something. Hopefully they just dropped something or knocked down a corner of the building or something like this. But there were horrific screams that I still like, I can hear, and men just screaming like you'd never heard. And we were half a block away in a parking lot. So I just said, like, I got to go look. I got to go see if I can help. I ran over to help. And sure enough, one of the workers had been knocked off the top floor of this building and had been knocked off the top floor with a pile of cinder blocks. And it's not the visual that does it, but that scenario of a whole bunch of people screaming around this man, clearly in his last, few minutes. There's nothing that we can really do to save him, but, call 911 if you guys, and sort of exiting people from the scenario and saying like, listen, I have no direct connection to this human being, but I have a direct connection to knowing that he needs calm around him and not panic. Yeah. And so, after a few minutes, the doctor came out from the grocery store next to where this had happened, but I was the one on scene, had my hand on this gentleman's chest and his head as he took his last breath. And as he took his last breath, there was something that was so powerful in that moment that I go back to it on such a regular basis now, not because of the seemingly the traumatic scarring, but I look at that traumatic scarring of my interaction with this human. The first time we ever met was in his last breath. Yeah. And I spoke to you, and I spoke to a bunch of people who I'm very, very close with. And maybe there is a greater purpose for you being there, for you being the calming presence in somebody's last breath, as opposed to you experiencing like this horrific accident, and looking at it a little bit differently and seeing somebody take their last breath and seemingly watch their soul leave their body was this thing that I can't put it to words, but I can feel it in my hands. Mm-hmm. And I can feel that event shifting me towards a greater purpose. And I don't want to sound cliched or philosophical or overly spiritual or anything like that. I just want to sound how I sound. And that tied me to humanity in a manner that I had never been tied before. My life, his life, we are one and the same. And I went to a series of, and just to further take this story down the road, is as I went to, at the same time, there had just been the massive Hurricane Dorian in the Bahamas. And so 9 days after this event, one of my colleagues said, why don't you go into this workshop? There's a workshop on trauma, and they're dealing with hurricane survivors, and a whole bunch of people were in a room and talking about, how they were helping the survivors of the hurricane and what was going on in the shelters and what people could be doing. And obviously we were experiencing this as non-Bahamians living in a country, but as Canadians, anyway, so I'm going to this trauma workshop from a completely different place. Yeah. than what everybody else in that room is. A, I'm the only non-Bahamian, and then B, I'm there because of something that's happened within 9 days, fairly traumatic in my life to an experience. But I'm listening around the room, and what had happened in that hurricane is Hurricane Dorian wiped out a couple of the islands right north of where we were in Nassau in New Providence. And there are a lot of Haitian migrants living in undocumented or documented, but living in the Bahamas. And so a lot of the survivors, those Haitians, moved into Nassau because of, their homes and their lives, and those other islands have been completely catastrophized, right? Ruined, destroyed. And so those survivors moved to Nassau, and a lot of the people, again, coming back to the workshop room, Bahamians. And there was a lot of like, they are coming and taking our jobs. It's them. And they're talking about Haitians like they were non-human almost, like this nationalistic pride. And I sat in the room as a Canadian, and I'm not one to speak up a lot of times and rock the boat, so to speak. But I stood up or put my hand up. And again, as soon as I put my hand up, my hand started tremoring right away. And this is the right hand that had been on the body of a Haitian man as he took his last breath. Yeah. And never once in my mind did I think this is a Haitian, or this is a non-Bahamian, or this is a non-Canadian. This was another human being. Yeah. And so as soon as I delivered that message, I was like, wow, like there is so much more within humanity that we can do for one another. And it's almost like when we recognize it, it connects us on a deeper level, And so those are a couple examples, man, but like going back a bunch of years, and then something a little bit more recent that really, I want to say, jolted me into awareness, and I think that really has shifted me to a greater purpose. And that moves us to sort of where we are now. And that's, trying to help others. Because once I recognize the potential or the value or the connectedness in myself, I now feel and resonate that with other people. You know what I mean? And once you do that, I think maybe we're missing the point altogether, or I've missed the point altogether, at least until this point in time,
No, you haven't missed the point altogether. It's just it's that process that's led you to this point, right? And that's for anyone listening, right? we get so caught up in just the busyness of our day-to-day life, right? Like we go to school, we go to work, we have a family, we got to get the kids out the door. And just stopping and being able to see that world through a 2-year-old's lens or a 3 or 4-year-old lens, and just watching a leaf kind of spin in the wind, and just to be aware of that and be like, whoa, like, look at that. Look what he's experiencing. He doesn't have these other lenses. He doesn't have these other programs in yet. He's just experiencing this natural environment that we live in, that most of us, we take it for granted, right? Because we get so caught up in just the busyness of the day-to-day shit in our lives that we have to do. And when we can separate ourselves from that, we're able to see things a little differently, right? And so we go back to just changing the lens a little bit, and then having that, having that experience that you encountered, that is a whole other lens. And we take this life for granted. And I've been guilty of it so many times, as we just get caught up in that go, 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 go. It's never going to end. But we all know that we're all going to die at some point, right? Like this could all be over instantaneously. And when you can connect to that, it gives you a whole new appreciation for this life that we get to experience every single day. And this comes back to gratitude, right? So many of us think gratitude is just like, oh, I'm just got to write a list and put some words down on a piece of paper. And that's what I talked about before. That's what I did. But now it means so much more to me, right? It's thinking about it. It's feeling it in every essence of your body. And once you can do that, like that totally changes your outlook on everything, and you're able to appreciate. And you have a saying, look up, breathe, right? Like you can just stop, connect with your breath, and just look at the sky. Like look at the clouds moving around, look at airplanes flying through the sky, look at all the things that we just kind of ignore and easily take for granted, right? So it may sound very abstract to a lot of people, like, oh yeah, awareness or gratitude or mindfulness, blah, 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 blah. It's just more things coming at them. But when you can disconnect from that constant go, 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 the busyness of your mind, and just slow down for a minute and look around and truly feel something, that gives you a whole new lens in which you see everything, right? So
yeah, and I think that, like, to take that a step further into sort of like the professional walk of life that both you and I, work in terms of movement, and in terms of therapy, and in terms of, as an athletic therapist, a strength coach, a hatha yoga instructor, whatever the titles might be, regardless of what the titles are, that ability is within every human to connect to what they're doing. And that is exactly where the educational piece and the empowerment piece that I feel the shifting of what healthcare is and can be, at least in my practice, is like to lean away from the dependence on me, the practitioner, and shift the ratio to dependence on yourself as a human being, as an individual, athlete, non-athlete, whatever you identify as. But like, let's start stripping away this dependence on another, because you ultimately control how you move, how you think, how you breathe. And so your ability to tap into that through whatever it might be, breath work or motion or all of these things, it allows us to experience more. And when we experience more, we are better.
Absolutely. And there's such a disconnect in terms of us wanting to take control of the things in our life, right? Like if we think of just people arguing on Facebook or arguing on Twitter, and they're just sending comments back and forth of things you would never say to another human being, probably if they were face to face in front of you, but because that elements are removed, you're able to just kind of spit all this anger and just negativity that's coming from within you, and you're just trying to throw it out at others, right? And this is a natural thing that happens in life. Like things want to spread, things want to reproduce, whether it's a weed on a lawn or a flower sending pollen out to grow more, right? Like this is what happens. So that comes down to just being able to be still and look within yourself and stop blaming other people for the circumstances that have made your life, right? Like, yes, there's shitty things that happen to people, but at the end of the day, you control your thoughts, you control your emotions, you can control your actions, right? So we need to be able to face that and not just throw it out and say that we don't have any control in it. So
yeah, and I think control is an interesting one too, right? Like, not to throw you off topic, but like the control piece, like you look at COVID and a pandemic, and we're so finite in the way, or at least I have been so finite in the way that I've approached. And again, like speaking from my own biases and experiences, but we're so finite in looking at, like, we have to get to a point in order to be successful. Yeah. Like, scratch out success and start talking about progress, because that's what it's all about. It's about what's happening. It's about endearing and endeavoring recovering in the process, right? Like when we run a race and we get to the end, we're like, great, we finished the race. Now when's the next one, right?
Yep.
So let's run the race and feel the ground beneath you, feel the, whatever the case might be, whatever analogies we want to use. But I think living the moment is a thing, and like gratitude and mindfulness, like we could throw away any terms and use whatever word we want. It's attention, man. It's attention and intention in whatever we're thinking, however we're breathing, whatever we're doing, the relationship we're in. And I'm not perfect, man. No chance, not even close. And nor am I striving to be perfect, because it's the imperfections that lead to the strength, right? And so as you are imperfect, the idea is you make those adjustments to sort of round it, to make it better, to experience it a little bit more, and then come out the other side. And I think these things are critical in survival, in a pandemic, in the performance space, in healing, in recovering, in trauma, or in, physical injury. Like all of these things, it comes down to how much intent are we putting into what we're doing? Because a lot of the times, you're exactly right. We busy ourselves. And I listen to your podcast on a regular basis, and you and I had some overlap with JP Aaron Sebia, and listening to him speak about sort of the busyness of what we feel life is. And then when we step back and our head hits the pillow and our mind goes racing, like, now what, and those are some things that we all struggle with. And I think when we can embrace that struggle, like JP said, just lean into it. And like, what was this? He said it a bunch of times. He's like, come on, anxiety, like, show me what you got. I know I'm going to get through this. Yeah. And so embracing it a little bit, again, like you use the term lens, and I love that. Just change the lens, just move the lens, shift perspective just a little bit. And we can cope and manage. And it's not all hunky-dory and rainbows and sunshine and lollipops, but we shift it a little bit and we can manage, we can manage a little bit better and grow from it.
Yeah, that's the experience of life, right? Like all these experiences that we go through, like, I don't want to say everything happens for a reason, but these experiences present themselves and we have the opportunity to grow and respond from them, right? Like look at what you encountered after going through that yoga retreat. Right. So that put you in a certain position, and like now you're able to experience these different things for whatever reason, whatever the course is that changed in your life. Like now you're headed down a different road, and life's going to throw some things at you saying, okay, like you're ready for this. How are you going to respond? And then once you respond, you overcome it. Like, okay, now you're on to the next thing. You just keep moving down that path, right? If we're trying to think of it in a very visual sense or a linear sense. But I want to back up a bit to that yoga retreat.
Yeah.
That's a significant change in the day-to-day life, right? There's so many, like maybe everyone listening thinks, yeah, I want to do something like that, but the excuses come in like, oh, I don't know if I can change my diet. I don't want to cut caffeine. That's a lot of time. Maybe it's a significant investment, blah, blah, blah. Insert excuse here as to why we won't do these things. How did you overcome those to just throw yourself right into that dramatic change of state?
Yeah, I think it started with the move, right? Like we moved to the Bahamas. That's not something I would take on and say like, here, I'm going to leave my entire professional practice and like I'm gonna uproot and go somewhere and do something that is seemingly in a job title and description has nothing to do with anything I've ever done before in my life. Yeah. So it started there, and then the opportunity came up. Like, again, you talk about timing and you talk about sort of like maybe this cosmic alignment and non-coincidental timing is a big thing in sort of the, I guess, sort of Buddhist thought or yogic thought, that things don't just happen because they happen at random. And we can go back energetically and look through our lives and see like this led to this, this led to this, this led to this. I didn't plan it that way, but if I go back, I can create this common thread throughout life. And I think that's really amazing. But yeah, it's difficult, man. And how did it happen for me? I guess it was timing, right? Like never in my life have I had a full summer off. Never in my life have we been able to like have the support from family to like know that our son and my wife will be like, okay to go back to Canada and have support and be in that space while I can dedicate an entire month to waking up at 5 a.m., going through the practices, 12 hours a day, understanding that communal living is a massive teacher of sort of the yogic way, understanding that sitting in a room and listening to people chant in Sanskrit, a language that I had never even fathomed I would be able to speak in any form or fashion, let alone sing or chant or do any of these things, and shifting. And so I think it was a gradual opening, man. If we look at it like a door, like this was a steel door with to a safe,
Yeah.
for me in my life. I wasn't getting anywhere near it. And if I would, I'd just run into it, bounce off, and then be like, all right, I'm done. I can't go in there.
Yeah.
And then I think slowly over time, just shifting, and maybe it's an age thing, maybe it's parenthood, maybe it's all these different things along the way, but slowly it became a jar and it opened, gradually over time. I opened to the possibility that I don't know everything. I don't know everything. And maybe the way that I'm doing things is strictly only my own way of doing things. And that doesn't work for everybody. And I saw that through interactions with students while I was working at York University, and, tucking the pants in and wearing khakis and making sure you have a polo shirt and no facial hair. And like all these different things as we went through is like, maybe these things aren't the only way to go about living life, and living life as somebody who can educate and empower. And we all are the expert of our own story. And I think that's the piece, right? And like your go-to is like, what's your story, and create what you want. I think these are amazing things because everybody has a story. You don't have to be an expert beyond anything that you don't know. And anyway, so come back around to how did this happen? It was a shift, right? Like, how are you going to go vegetarian? So, I mean, I'm very calculated. I started slowly like chipping away at this. Okay, this is coming up in July. I'm going to stop eating as much. I didn't eat a ton of meat beforehand either, but that was the one I got hung up on. Caffeine was a major one, as you know, from our time in baseball. So yeah, just kind of shifting those things and slowly trying to make a calculated change from, 6 cups of coffee down to 5, down to 4, down to 3, and sort of petering and periodizing, I guess, as we get closer to. So making some calculated decisions the way that I'm formally accustomed to as we prepped for that. But nothing could have set me up to understand the value of living a yogic lifestyle at an ashram that is so powerfully energetic, and everybody experiencing it their own way, but experiencing it together, I think is massive. I'm not a churchgoer, I'm not a religious person, but to go into a temple and see all these different deities and hum and sing and hear philosophy and all of a sudden like get a weekend and be like, wow, like something's starting to shift here, and the ocean and the environment and all these things. So I think for me, it was, again, approaching it my own way. And then as I got further and further in, really coaching myself sort of semi-consciously, and through conversations with you and my roommate there. I ended up having a roommate, we slept feet to feet, opposite ends of the room, but a very small room. And within 5 minutes, I knew that I was in the right place, because this guy had been through, AA, and he was 7 years sober, and we're sharing the space, and he's sharing all of his experience with me. And part of life is sharing, man, and sharing with people, because my struggles are mine, yours are yours, but they're still struggles, and we're experiencing them together. And so, so that shift, it was difficult, man, for a few days, a few headaches, definitely, like with the caffeine thing, and sleep's never really been an issue. But I think, powerful thunderstorms outside of the temple while we were doing chanting and stuff like that, like it just felt like amazing to be in it. And once I sort of quote unquote gave myself over to it, the full immersive experience, unlike anything I've ever done.
Yeah. Like you said, right? Totally immersive experience. And if we go back to that lens analogy, all these other lenses that change our experience have been taken away, right? So now you're in this temple by the beach, looking at all these new things and all these new experiences, from breath work to meditation to chanting. That's a big one I want to get into in a little bit, but it's so easy to see like how that changes our perspective on everything, right? So if we think like coffee right now, like that's a new lens that's changing our state, and then we're seeing the world through that lens, right? Food is a big one. Lack of sleep, stress, things coming at you through your cell phone, right? Your things going on in your life, work, your partner, your kids. All of these lenses are taken away, and now you're just experiencing the actual moment and space where you're at. And that is absolutely crazy. Like that's totally mind blowing. And I want to go back to the chanting thing in a minute, but at any point in there, did you hit the point where like your mind starts to make excuses? Like, okay, well, I should get out of here because of A, B, and C, or like, I need to end this early. Like, how did you navigate those thoughts that I'm sure came in there?
Yeah, I mean, I fall pretty heavy. You know me, I tend to fall into things pretty heavy. And so once I got in there and fell in, I was pretty much, with the flow of the water, so to speak, going with it. But definitely along the way, it's like, do I just walk up the street, and do I leave at every opportunity and run down the beach to Atlantis and grab a coffee, and then like hearing about
right there, you can do it.
It's right there. I can make it, right? I can make it there and back in 30 minutes and get caffeine in the middle of the day. And so, yeah, so I mean, definitely there were some of those points, but again, like, I don't want to say giving up, but like just acknowledging that there's struggle in this, and that these things are, I mean, I broke down in tears with a Swami, because at this ashram, there are Swamis that live there, right? Like this is their full time. They are monks essentially. And they're living there. And one of them looked at me one day after a class and said, "How are you doing?" And for the first time in a really, really long time, she was asking me that question.
Yeah.
She wasn't just like, "Hey, how you doing?" Yeah. And JP talked about it, right? Like this sort of like surface response, but she looked into me and said, "How are you doing?" And I looked at her and tears filled up my eyes. And I just said, "I'm struggling." She said, "I know that. Why don't you come talk to me later on? Like, let's skip the evening satsang and like, let's just have a one-on-one chat." And she felt that energetically. I'm not a person that opens up, and I appreciate this opportunity to sort of open up and share this publicly, because that's a big thing as well. It's like, I'm not overly comfortable opening up emotionally or opening up this side of me very often, but so I opened up with her, and out the other side was just wholly powerful, man. And so different lens, allowed myself to be fully vulnerable with somebody who I felt, I entrusted with that, and she had felt in me. And it was, again, like another connection of humanity that I don't think I would have ever experienced if I hadn't given myself fully to those moments. I could have put up those shields, those blockers, and not been responsive to any of it. But for whatever reason, again, you talk about it, is like, I just followed the path of intuition and my heart. And I think, and it showed me the way, it showed me how to be a little bit more vulnerable and allow this side to show, to get through this. Right. And so I think I lost the original question here, but yeah, man, it's amazing, an amazing experience, 100% on the ups, the downs, and everywhere in between.
That's funny that you said that right there. How are you doing? Because I was thinking back to this morning. And with everything changed in my personal life in 2017, you actually came down to Buffalo, where I was working, and we went out, we had dinner and a couple cocktails, and I told you everything that I'd been kind of dealing with for the past 4 or 5 months, whatever it was. And you looked me dead in the eyes and said, "How are you doing? Like, you need to make sure that you take care of you, because if you don't take care of you, like, you're not able to help anybody else." And that's something that really, really impacted me. And I don't think I even really realized that until this morning when I was thinking back to that moment. But that conversation and that feeling, that moment with you right there, changes the course of my life, because that's got the wheel spinning. Like, okay, I need to focus on myself here for a little bit, as opposed to always kind of helping everyone else, right? And that's what we do when you're in the space of working with people and helping people. We're always kind of focusing on their needs, but I needed to withdraw from that and focus on myself. And fast forward, when I got back home to the house that was empty and totally working on transforming my life, one of the things I signed up for was a month pass at a local yoga studio that was just down the road. Mm-hmm. So it's funny, these similarities. And I went to this one, it was like yoga and meditation. I forget the exact name of it, but I went in, and literally within 2 minutes we're laying on the floor, and they're going through chants and alms and singing. And I'm literally laying there like, "Oh my God, this is stupid. Why am I here? Like, I should just leave." And something came over me. It was like, "No, like, stop all that nonsense and just go with it." And literally, I kind of gave up to the moment, and it was like blast off, like an experience like I've never had in my life, like total out of body experience. I can't even describe it because words won't even do it justice. But that moment right there slingshotted me into something else, and to a totally new path. And that's where I got consistent with my meditation and totally changed the course of my life. So just a kind of funny overlap of similarities there, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, and I pull intention out of both of those stories, Jason. Like you and I have had a ton of good conversations. Some of them after too many cocktails when we were younger. Some of them, dead sober and in the throes of something as significant as your life altering experiences. And the intent the intention of the conversation, the intention of this relationship, of our relationship, the way that I feel I can depend on you and you can depend on me. These are not a dime a dozen. These are things that come and go. And again, like we talk about seeking a greater purpose or something like this. Sometimes I don't know that it's about seeking. I just think it's about investing in those moments, and none of that is or will ever be surface between you and I. Like sitting across the table from you, I don't have to challenge myself to be intentful in the conversation and dialogue that I'm having with you. You draw that out of me. You draw that out of your guests and everybody that you interact with. And I think, like, you thank me for asking you how you are, but you drew that out of me because of how purposeful and how much depth you offer to humanity, to other people. And I think, like, not to turn this into I thank you, no, you thank me, no, like, but thank you, man, because you shifted a lot of things in me. I've relied on you for a lot of things. And I also, in doing so, I want to acknowledge that's heavy for you as well, to take on other people's things and to be listening and to be intentful. But at the same time, it's also like what connects us as humans, And so for practitioners out there and anybody who works as somebody who works with other humans, which is most people, in some form or fashion, you become sort of a pseudo therapist at some point for somebody else, And so the check-in on yourself is critical. And sometimes it takes a kick in the ass or somebody across the table to say, like, how are you, man? Like, how are you? Not how are you, but like, how are you? You, like the central piece that you are. How is that, man? Like, are you well? Are you unwell? Are you taking care? So those things are big, man. But again, like, that's intent. And then you go to this yoga class and you lie down and you're like, this is stupid. I don't want to do this. Oh my God, they're chanting some language I don't understand. But once you give yourself to that moment, it really just allows that's safe to be cracked open a little bit, to peek inside. And I was having this conversation with another person that we have common ground with, and Marcus Connect is a former, high round draft pick. And he's doing a lot of really great work with youth and sort of rebuilding himself as a human being, which is amazing to sort of be a part of and sort of come back around to him. And it's amazing to see, even in the performance space, when you give yourself to the moment, to the swing, to the lift, to the hand position, like how much more power there is in us. And so this is what it's all about. These stories, sharing this, listening to your podcast, and the guests you've had on is all part of it. It's about tapping into the elements of the things that are in us, but we don't ever pay attention to as well, because when it's in me, it's in you. And if it's in you and it's in me, there's a whole lot more light in this darkness than we really give credit for, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. The word that jumps out for me there, and something I keep coming back to, is just that idea of awareness, right? Like, it's so easy for us to just be running on autopilot every single day. Like, even with everything that's happening, we still find things that are keeping us busy and preoccupied or distracted, right? But when we have those thoughts, we have those emotions, those things that come up, just understanding and just being aware of, okay, what is my reaction here? Am I just saying, how are you? Oh, good. How are you? Like that automated program response that everyone does, even if we're sick or something awful just happened to us. But just understanding and having that awareness, like, okay, what's my reaction in X just happened? Are you aware of your reaction or not? I always go back to the travel one. Someone cuts you off, like, your instant reaction is like, wow, freak out, anger, whatever, honk the horn, flip bird. But when you can be aware of that state, okay, now you have the superpower. You can change your reaction. To me, that is so transformative for anybody listening, right? Just become aware of your automatic responses and see how you can shift them. Because once you gain access to those controls, you can change literally anything you want in your life. And that comes back to just being aware. And I know it sounds abstract to a lot of people, I'm sure, but just try and listen and understand those words and just test it out in your life. And this is why these conversations are so important, and all the work you're doing, all the conversations that you're having. For anyone to take one piece of information away from this conversation and they can implement it and change something in their life for the better, like, that's why we do this. This is why these conversations are so important. And to have people listening all over the world, like, it blows my mind that there's people in Taiwan and France and Australia listening to these conversations. Like, that's something, if you'd asked me 5, even 3 years ago that this would be a thing, I'd be like, no, you're crazy. I can't do that because of A, B, C, and D. But I don't want to get off track here, but
No, no. Well, I think I think
powerful means.
Yeah, and we need to get off track because 3, 5, 7, 10 years ago it would have been like, what time are we getting up for the game tomorrow? Like, what are we going to eat? And what time are we going to get to the gym? What time do we got to get? Not that there's anything wrong with that either, but like, this is it, man. Like, it's softening our reactivity and making it responsive in nature, right? And so this is the thing that I've moved towards with breath work and intentful movement and mindfulness and meditation is that's the teaching. The teaching is like acknowledgement, right? Like you just said, awareness of your reactivity. And instead of flipping the bird, maybe your finger only gets up halfway. And then you're like, hey, I should do my nails, something like that, where that's it. And I think that's just to take it down that road a little bit further is like, that's mindfulness, right? Like mindfulness is in my opinion, and sort of maybe a little bit more biased towards like Buddhism or the yogic mindset, is to become mindful is to experience what the mind is doing as it does it, right? To be present in one's mind versus doing something for an altered state of consciousness. Like when we do mindfulness so that we can get to be super conscious of one object or one experience, or we do mindfulness to get to a state of relaxation psychologically, like we're still striving for something in that, as opposed to the purposeful intent of just being and acknowledging what the mind is and is doing. There's definite advantages to concentration and relaxation and dissociation from trauma and getting to maybe a more religious or spiritual or mystical state, for sure. Mm-hmm. But when we're striving for it, we're losing the purpose, the awareness of the actual practice. Yeah. So I think those are those are some big learning lessons and very abstract for me 5, 7, 10 years ago, like you burn incense 10 years ago in my life. It was like, whoa, hang on a second.
Same here.
The only thing that should be burning, that smells like that is something else. But, and then come around to it now is like, well, okay, that's an entryway to a lot of different things as well, entryway to clear space and physical energies and all kinds of things. So I think just all of it, right? Like, let's say reactivity to responsiveness, but like rigidity to softening the edges a little bit of life, and like how strategic we are in sort of planning what our life needs to look like. Yeah, I think there's,
absolutely. I want to shift gears a little bit. So let's talk about the great creative venture that's come from all your experiences thus far. And that is FIRSTAR Therapy. Yeah. What are you doing? Obviously I know, but how can you tell everybody what you're doing right now, what you're experiencing, where you guys are headed moving forward?
Yeah, so FIRSTAR Therapy is the new venture. All of these experiences have culminated in sort of trying to find the quote unquote right place to work. And in the middle of a pandemic and moving back from the Bahamas to Canada, yeah, man, it's been an acronym that I've played with since being in school. And the acronym sort of rolled out, functional, integrative, rehabilitation, sport-specific training, adaptation, and re-education. And that's FIRSTAR, FIRSTAR. The last two have become critical: adaptation and re-education. And I think looking at the way that I've approached things as a practitioner, the way that I've approached interactions with athletes, all of these things are shifting. So the shift has now moved very much to intentful motion. I've had a great opportunity with Dan Noble and Grid Athletics here in Toronto to really implement this with some high-level athletes and start building this into some of the amateur level athletics that athletes that come in or came in when we were allowed to have in-person things. And along the way, I've reconnected obviously with you and with another former athlete at York University who's a professional soccer player. And we've come up with something that we've deemed performance wellness. Blending wellness into the performance space. And really the way that we look at it is, let's bring humanity back into sport. Let's bring humanness into performance. Mm-hmm. And so we tap into the mindfulness. We have a very nice holistic program where we look at mindfulness and we look at intentful motion, and we pair this together in a phasic program. And we're now in the stages of discussions with multiple organizations and teams to push this out there, because ultimately at the end of the day, athlete ends and human continues. And so it's setting up for success along the way. But also enhanced performance has never been a very linear equation, right? We look at put more weight on a squat bar and that's going to make you a better baseball player. Mm-hmm. Show me how that's linear. Show me how putting more weight on the floor and picking it up off the ground is going to directly translate to better, whatever you want to put, insert sport here. And so the linear equation that we have sort of stumbled upon through navigating this space, Matt, through his experience as a professional athlete and being told, like, before he became a pro, you're at your end, buddy. Like, that's the end of your career. This is as far as you're going to go. And him saying, wait a second, like, why am I letting somebody else dictate where I end and where I begin? And finding mindfulness and meditation and studying that through U of T and other alternative channels. And then myself sort of studying this on the other side. So the linear equation is this: if we can create more capacity within ourselves, we are therefore more of ourself. And if we are more of ourself, our performance is enhanced. Whether that's better at attending to our body when it's not feeling well, or deterring injury because I can now move my shoulder into that space, or training under tensile load in the ACL because I play a sport that requires tensile load in the ACL. And the first time I get there is going to result in a rupture, or it's going to result in, oh, hey, I've already been there. That's okay. I can go back there again and not completely blow out. So that's it, man. I mean, it's performance, it's wellness. I'm offering sort of through the virtual space an access work course where it's very intentful movement. We just started our second round last night. Athletes across sort of Canada and the globe, signing in online, going through some intentful movement that way. I also have a recalibration workshop that was really, really powerful last month and has had lots of people reach out, and that's a breath work, like a real basic introduction to breathing, introduction to relaxation through intentful mind, right? And that looks at sort of, some real basics of full yogic breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, whatever we're going to call it, some visualization techniques, some relaxation techniques. And again, ultimately empowering people to not have to depend on anything other than what they already own. Mm-hmm. So learning how to own my space a little bit better will ultimately provide the strategies that I need. It's within all of us, man. And we keep coming back around to this, and every one of your guests has touched on this, and you have reinforced this in me. And it's in us. It's just sometimes we need a guide. And so you're the hero of your story, and FIRSTAR Therapy and performance wellness with Mind Frame Fit and what Matt's doing and the Epic Life, Epic and what you're doing, like, the human is the hero. We're just here to guide. We're here to facilitate. I don't want to be a healer. I don't want to be dependent upon for anything other than good information, empowerment, and education that's going to support you in exploring you more, not on my agenda, right, as a practitioner or anything else. So that's kind of the long and the short of it. It's been a really cool experience to sort of shift into, again, like, I was super hesitant to the online thing, right? I'm like, oh, I need hands-on. And definitely I do, because humans need touch and practitioners need touch. And we need that to continue on. But moving to the online world has been a really cool shift, and just sort of navigating, like, I know social media has its, you talk about it, we talk about it, I talk about it. It has its bonuses. It also has its drawbacks, just as technology does, and sort of embracing the good, embracing the ability to have listeners in Taiwan and France and Australia. And if you're still listening to this session, thank you so much, because I do get a little bit long-winded, but yeah, man. So that's FIRSTAR, and our handle is at FIRSTAR.therapy. On Instagram, FIRSTARtherapy.com is the website. And I'm more than happy to chat with whoever about any of this stuff moving forward. And you and I talked about this the other day, man, is like the community. This is what it's about. It's about generating a sense of community and providing places where conversations can be had and conversations can be heard that resonate, right? This isn't for everybody. I'm not for everybody. You're not for everybody. But if we can, like you said, have one person take one thing away, we've changed the world. And when we've changed the world, it's a pretty powerful experience for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing you said there that I want to clarify for a lot of people is that what you're doing, your work is not just for athletes, right? It's for humans. So it doesn't matter what you identify yourself as, whether it's an athlete, whether it's a busy mom, a busy dad, a busy whatever it is, you can still benefit from this work. And that's part of the conversation that we're having today. And I just want to unpack a couple of areas a little bit in terms of how we can help the human out there listening, right? They don't have to be an athlete. They don't have to be a
100%
performer in any aspect. But a big thing that people are dealing with all around the world right now is stress of the unknown, stress of the situation we're in. what are a couple of your cues to help people navigate or manage that stress, right? Because I see a lot of stuff that like eliminate stress. No, you can't ever eliminate stress, nor do you want to, right? You want to cut back on the chronic stress that's breaking you down, but those acute stresses of the day-to-day events in your life, like those are the things, it's just like training. Those are the things that force you to create a response, and then you get stronger as a result of it, right? So I like the term managing stress because we can manage it and we can work through it. And we're always going to have those things that come up. But what are a couple of your key points or actionable tips for people to help manage that stress that's occurring in their lives right now?
Yeah. And I like that, managing instead of ridding, right? Like, let's not get rid of stress. Stress serves a purpose, especially in humanity. So, I look at it like a similar way is like injury prevention. I don't really believe in injury prevention. I believe in injury deterrence. You can't tell me you can prevent UCL surgery from having to happen with throwers because of the nature of what throwing is. So when we look at,
a lot of people will use that as a sales technique, right? As prevention.
100%.
How can you say that? You cannot say that with 100% certainty or guarantee. So I like that term they used. Very important.
Yeah, deterrence instead of the other. So, some tips, some takeaways. I mean, here it is, man. In a summation of what we are a negatively biased being, right? We have three options in any scenario. We have fight, we have flight, and we have freeze. Mm-hmm. Let's take the T-Rex. I like this example because I've met so many T-Rexes in my life. But like, if there's a T-Rex, if I fight, I don't have much chance. If I flight, run away, that thing's way bigger than me. It's going to catch me. If I freeze, well, we know what the outcome is if I freeze and a T-Rex is hungry, right? So those are all negative outcomes. So we have a negativity bias built into us as humans. So what do? We don't try to rid ourselves of negative energy or negative stress. We just soften it a little bit. So how do you soften it? Let's look at the nervous system. Everything comes down to the vagus nerve, to the brain, to the neurological function of the body, to the nervous system. We have a sympathetic nervous system and a parasympathetic nervous system as part of, our being. Right? The sympathetic nervous system is on all the time. Stress is a passive occurrence. It happens without trying. Our brain does a poor job of interpreting, my taxes are due tomorrow, or I'm about to get eaten by a T-Rex. Our brain doesn't, it is what it is. It's
same
stress.
Response. Yeah.
Same response. So then we have the parasympathetics, which is our down regulator, our ability to sort of navigate that or soften that. And we can tap into that through the breath. We tap into the one thing that we truly need every single day is to breathe. Mm-hmm. And it seems so simple that like that can't work, and like, how can that work? Well, it works like this. We down regulate a system that's constantly up regulated, but we have to do that actively. So when somebody tells you to relax and your response is like, I'm going to kill you because you just told me to relax. Like, how can you just tell me to relax? The idea is figure out how to relax. Yeah. And that can be done through the breath, through closing the eyes, through looking up to the sky, through whatever means you connect with. But there has to be an element that is active in our relaxation, right? In our stress management. So we have to actively engage in that. I've found breath work to be a huge reliever of that. Or breath work, postural stuff, seating for periods of time, like sitting, meditative stuff, mindfulness, static posture, finding postures that work. So quick fixes, find somebody that knows how to breathe and follow that. Find somebody who you can talk to about your stress and have an outlet. And these are the things, right? But understand that we are negatively biased, so it's okay to have negativity in our life. We don't want to rid if we ridded, I don't know if that's a word. If we rid our bodies, our humanity of stress, what would that look like, man? Like, what would that be? There would be no more. All we do is complain. We could go outside on the most beautiful day and be like, oh man, I'm sweaty. Yeah. Like it's freezing cold outside. Oh man, it's too cold. Like we complain about whatever because of our biases and because of our experiences. But again, it's not all hunky dory. But finding the breath, finding a way to coach through this, and finding somebody, to be quite honest, I posted this on my handle the other day on Instagram. It's like everybody and their uncle is an expert right now. I am not a mental health practitioner, but I have found strategies that can help you as an athlete, you as a human being, help me. And if it helps me, I know it can help somebody else. Absolutely. And so as we navigate this space, it's finding somebody who understands you that can help you. Not going to the first person who looks the best in their sports bra or with their shirt off, hanging down, upside down, doing a hand walk, push up. It's finding something that resonates, someone that resonates with you, where you can have something that you can build from, you know, and this is all foundational for me. This is all foundational. My story is not over. My evolution is not over. My growth as a practitioner, as a human being, as a parent, as a partner, as a friend, as a whatever is not over. It's constantly evolving. And so I think just being a little bit softer with ourselves and knowing that searching for the finite end is, I mean, for me, man, it's not the way. It's investing in these moments and conversations like this I could sit here for hours, man, and talk to you but we won't subject everybody else to that. But you know, So breathe and be, man. It seems simple and it is, but it's also overly involved.
Such an important piece, and this is something we talk about quite a bit, but it's the idea of like, we can grab the controls of that thing at any point in time, right? If you think of the thermostat analogy, like, oh my God, it's too hot in here, things are heating up, I'm stressed, blah, 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 blah. Like, okay, you can turn the temperature down to a more comfortable level, right? It's a very visual and metaphoric example for people, but think of that analogy, right? Like, it's getting too hot. What do you do in your house? You turn the temperature down, right? So you can do the same thing with your breath. And there's an athlete that both you and I know from years ago, and I worked with him about 4 years ago, I guess. And again, that negativity bias, right? Everything's blah, blah, blah. This sucks. I'm frustrated. Shouldn't be here. Blah, 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 blah. This would still be happening after his training. And one of the things we implemented was like, okay, you're done training. Now we need to switch your gears to off because you're always on. So what I want to do is just lay down, put your feet up on the wall. You're going to shut the lights off, put a towel over your face, and just breathe for 5 minutes. I'll set a timer.
That can feel like forever, though, dude.
It can feel like forever, but after a while, you get to the point where like you're, okay, well, I'm almost falling asleep. Beautiful. You've hit the off switch. You've turned the temperature down. Get out of here. Go on with your night. So for anyone listening, like, that's such an important tool, right? If you're reactive, things just happen in your day, like just chill out, lay on the floor, close your eyes and just breathe for a few minutes. Give yourself time to get away from it and change that state.
Yeah, you just took me back to the ashram, you know, sitting down and they're like, okay, we're going to start and end every day with a 30-minute silent meditation. And I get, you know, what I feel like is 10 minutes in and I'm opening my eyes and like peeking out to the right, peeking out to the left. I'm like, how are people doing this? How's everybody staying still? My body, my mind want to go everywhere else but where I am, you know? And I think that's crucial, man. What a cool share. And I'm sure said athlete and you have a relationship that goes far beyond just lying on a floor with a towel over your eyes from that point forward. You know what I mean? And this is it. It's like just everybody's going to struggle. I struggle. I am not perfect with any of this stuff, but I'm investing in intuition and heart. You know what I mean? And when I invest in that in me, I know it's in other people. And once other people experience it in themselves, that's the greatest payout. You know what I mean? I again, like independence in you is what it's all about. This is the hashtag is recognizing potential. And the bigger one is you-ness. Like how do you find you? Because I want to help coach you to you in whatever manner I can. Through means that I'm familiar with and that have worked in my life and some of the athletes and non-athletes. Like, I don't want to even use that title. You're right. Like this is humanity wide here.
Yeah. And like I said, we're not experts. These are just experiences that we're relaying to other people. But for anyone listening, right? These are tools that we've found in our lives that have significantly changed our experience. So we're helping provide tools for you to use. And these tools are going to change. They don't have to be rigid. They don't have to be so fixed. Do with them as you will and test them out on yourself and test them out in your life and see how things change. And that's part of the human experience. And we go back to this idea of like, we're literally living the greatest game or the greatest choose your own adventure story that you could ever imagine. Like we're living that right now. Right. And we get so caught up in the busyness and the day-to-day stuff. I don't want to get back on that tangent, but let's touch on another subject. I don't want to take up too much of your time here, but
no.
One important aspect that we both deal with, that we've both had significant experiences in, is just the idea of movement. What are some of your top actionable tips for people? Maybe they're working from home now. Their work environment's changed. They're spending a lot more time seated. They don't have to get up. They don't have to walk to work. They don't have to go. Well, maybe they can't go anywhere. So they're just kind of seated and fixed for prolonged periods of time. What are some of your top actionable movement tips to help people navigate that space?
Yeah, so I think the first movement is like move through the breath, right? Like, so breathe first, breathe in a seated position, understand that you can follow your breath even while you're seated at a desk. And that's going to provide, like, can I track my breath from my nostrils? Do I feel it? Can I feel it down my throat? Can I feel it into my abdomen? Can I feel it in my chest? Where do I feel it? That's great movement right there. It needs to happen. It's necessitated movement, right? The movement of the breath. Secondary to that is get up and move and actually do it. And if you need to, if you're a rigid thinker and you need to set timers and move. The physiological response to physical motion is uncharted, right? Like there's so much information on that and its value, and you know, the neurotransmitters that are released and the interactions that happen in our body from our brain when we move. The struggle, the internal battle that goes into, oh man, I'm lazy, I haven't done anything in 30 days, and like that just hunkers us down, that mires us into the cement of not doing something, versus the 3 seconds that it would take to simply shake loose and like, okay, I'm just going to move my hand then. Okay, look, I'm starting to move my hand. Hey, look at that, I have fingers. Now move my elbow. Okay, I'm still seated, I can't get up. Do some shoulder circles, move your head around, blink your eyes, squeeze your eyes, squeeze your jaw. So like taking the opportunities and acknowledging them, but actually doing something. I'm guilty of it, Jason. I've reflected on this regularly with you. Is like there'll be 7 or 10 days where I don't pick up any external load, or I don't do a push-up, or I don't do a plank, or I don't do something like that, and I feel like shit, like garbage. And this, again, this is experience. This is, I am my own expert. That's it, of my own self, and that's it. But when I move, when I actually go through it, the minutes immediately after and the next day, I wake up being like, hey, look, like my pec is like, hey, I have some rigidity there again. I have some shape after one movement session. Yeah. You know, you feel it. You are it. You are with it. And so, yeah, the tip would be get up and move. And again, if that doesn't work as just like, it's just that simple. If that's somebody telling you when you're stressed, hey, relax, then find somebody that you resonate with, that their language or the way they speak or deliver information resonates with you to motivate you to move. We sometimes need external motivators, right? We can't be our own boss all the time. We need some of that external feedback, that external experience, that expert in the field to help guide us, right? That's why you and I have roles that we've had in the past and present, right? Is because there is a dependence, there's a certain level of dependence that we need as humans and interaction that we need as humans. So find the things that resonate, that make you move, but definitely move, even if it's your fingers, even if it's your elbow, even if it's your feet, but move, because the feedback that generates in our body is unmatched by anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a saying that the brain will follow the body, right? And I did, Tony Robbins did a free 5-day course last week, which was unbelievable. Like, I'm a big fan of his work. And one of the things they kept doing constantly was every time there'd be a change in subject or change in break, they would have everyone basically jump up and basically start dancing. That's a big aspect of his work. So you're moving your body, right? You're getting excited. So you're literally connecting those two elements, your brain and your body, in a new way. So instead of sitting there you're on your 3rd hour, like, oh my God, I'm exhausted, is this going to end? Yep. No, you're changing your state. You're moving your body. You're getting your brain. You're totally changing every aspect of your being, right?
Yep.
Changing that physiology. And that's such an important piece. And for anyone listening, right, you can think like, okay, you have to work at your desk for 6-8 hours today. Find some breaks and go up and down the stairs, do some jumping jacks. Like you said, move your fingers, move your arms, blink your eyes, connect with your breath. There's so many things that you can do. And it's just a matter of, like, again, going back to that idea of accessing the controls and allowing yourself some time to just do it, right? Like the famous Nike saying, but it's so important to just to move that body. Even sitting here right now, I feel like my thoracic spine is getting stiff. I can feel my hips are out of whack just from being seated for so much more. People listening, what do you say, Jurassic Park? No, like,
yeah.
How would you explain that region for people? Basically, from your shoulder blades around through your chest, through or a lot of
sure, yeah, from where your shirt starts to the middle of your back, kind of thing, right? And then your lumbar takes over, and then your lumbar blends into your pelvis, and yeah. So I think that's great, man. The other thing is like water, right? Like you and I used to joke about this. Like every freaking cell in your body needs this stuff. Yet people are pouring all kinds of different energy drinks down their throat, and then they're wondering like, why do I feel like garbage? Why do I feel like I'm dehydrated, or why do I feel like I'm always thirsty? And like so water replaces thirst and hunger are sort of paralleled in the brain as well. And that's another one, right? Like, so if you find yourself constantly snacking, constantly eating, start replacing some of that with more water intake and see where you go. I'm big on journaling and writing things down too. And so, like, yeah, move, breathe, and drink water. I think and a lot of the rest kind of takes care of itself. I don't want to oversimplify it. There's a lot more that goes on, obviously, on a day to day. But yeah, man, I think those are all critical pieces to it, and contribute to how we feel overall. 100%.
Yeah, and that's beautiful, like you said. And go back to, what do you think it is that you need to change in your life? First, you have to become aware of it. And then you have to find an actionable point, an actionable tip or element that you can incorporate in your life that is going to actually work for you, right? There's so much information out there that we get information out of the fire hose when all we need is maybe one piece to move us in that direction, right? And for us, the third key element is just that accountability. So create some form of external accountability, whether it's a friend, your partner, a coach, whatever it is, that you're going to be now accountable to somebody else to keep moving in that direction. You're not going to get 2 steps out and think, I'm just going to go back here because this is more comfortable. Like, no, you got to keep going, right? Your mind's going to get in there, keep moving in that direction. And thank you so much, man, for all the information you shared today. Conversations like this are truly invaluable for so many people. Like, this is going to help so many people begin to move forward. Maybe they've been listening for a couple of weeks. Maybe they're just hearing us for the first time now because you're on here, but something will click today in that person's life and help propel them in that direction. And this is why we have these conversations. So thank you, my brother. One last question I do want to ask you. This is something we've asked everyone thus far, is that if you had one message that you could tell the entire world right now, everyone's listening, what would that message be?
Find you.
Find you.
Because when you find you, you'll find it in everybody else as well.
Beautiful. That's it. Team human. We're all on the same team, right? Change that lens and be able to look within yourself and look at all the stories you've told yourself. Look at all the negative biases you have. Look at all the things that maybe you want to adjust or make come true in your life. And like you said, that's a perfect way to summarize it, is find you. Get out of the distractions and connect within yourself, because all the answers you want and all the answers you need in your life are inside of you. And all these other tools that we're talking about today that are out there in so many different ways, they're there to help you, but they won't help you unless you find and connect with yourself.
Thanks for this opportunity, man. This has been great. And I look forward to future guests and a lot of interaction and building this community, because that's what it's all about.
Thank you, brother. This is a conversation, long time coming in this form to get out to people, but I just want to finish. How can everyone reach out to you? I know you touched on some handles earlier, but if everyone listening right now wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Yeah, sure. So you can do that by email, consult, CONSULT @firststartherapy.com. That's FIRSTAR therapy.com, or by Instagram. That's easy, @firststar.therapy on Instagram. And I'm more than happy to interact and love this stuff more than ever. I think the feedback and the dialogue shapes what I do on a daily basis just as much as what I'm putting out.
Beautiful. Thanks, brother. Appreciate this. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, man.
Thanks, James, for sharing your story with all of us today. I thoroughly enjoyed that conversation, and I hope all of you were able to take a few pieces of info out of there that you can begin to utilize in your own life. I think his message at the end to find you is something that all of us need from time to time. We all can get so caught up in the busyness of our day-to-day existence that we can often veer away from ourselves. We venture off a path of being able to truly connect with our innermost wants, desires, and goals, and fall into undesirable habits, programs, and distractions. I know I've been there before. Most of us, I'm sure, can really resonate with that. I hope that you all enjoyed all of these conversations thus far. Please take a moment and leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. This greatly improves our reach and ability to continue to reach more people with these great conversations. Thanks, guys. I love you all. We'll catch you next week. Peace.
Thanks again for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this community. Check us out online, FIRSTARtherapy.com. That's FIRSTAR therapy.com. Or email us with feedback, consult@firststartherapy.com, CONSULT@firststartherapy.com, on Instagram @firststar.therapy, and our podcast host @letschat.at. This is First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast.